This is the AEW Collision June 21, 2025 full show results video which takes place at accesso ShoWare Center in Kent, Seattle, Washington. The show started with a match between Jon Moxley vs AR Fox. AR tried to hit a diving splash on Moxley, but Moxley countered with a punch. Fox tells the champ that he isn't through yet, and Moxley goes for a kick that AR catches before forcing him back to the outside. A dive follows up before he brings Moxley back into the ring, keeping Yuta at bay before sliding in for a running punt on the champ. In the end, Moxley applied Bulldog Choke to defeat AR Fox by submission. Moxley continues the beatdown before telling Yuta to get him a microphone. Moxley runs down Hangman Adam Page as Yuta forces Fox out of the ring. The champ talks about Page pissing away his talent for years, saying he's tired of the Cowboys' crybaby crap. The crowd boos as Moxley says this is a tough sport and a tough business. On July 12th at All In, he's gonna run the Hangman out of this sport for good. Page can go back to counting chickens on his farm or whatever it is he does, because this sport is not for him. Moxley's music hits as he drops the mic, talking smack into the camera. Then we saw a match between Kanosuk Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and FTR vs Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Daniel Garcia, and Bandito. The action broke down to moves all around, then both teams reset to charge forward for a massive brawl. When the dust cleared, Fletcher super-kicked Roddy into a shatter machine from FTR and Dax Harwood made the winning pin on Roderick Strong. They look to continue the beatdown on their opponents, until the Outrunners come running down for the save. Big crowd pop as they clear FTR and Don Callis family from the ring, with Cashherd saying they thought they were still cool before retreating up the ramp. Backstage we hear from the 8 women in our All-Star 8-woman tag match later tonight, with Athena notably looking down on her tag partners. Back from break, commentary hypes up the Women's World Championship match at All In before we get an interview from Grand Slam Mexico with Mercedes, who talks about being the master of any game before issuing a warning to Toni Storm. The next match happened between Swerve Strickland vs Shane Taylor. Swerve picked apart the big man with focus on the left arm. When Taylor climbed the corner, Swerve came underneath to lift the heavyweight for an avalanche slam. Swerve followed for a flying stomp on the apron. STP and Prince Nana were gambling on the match. When those goons grabbed Nana, Swerve took flight for a dive outside onto the pile. Back inside the ring, Swerve hits a house call kick to defeat Shane Taylor by pinfall. Swerve celebrates as we get a look back at Mercedes getting blindsided by Toni Storm at Grand Slam Mexico after her CMLL World Women's Championship win. An announcer voiceover introduces timeless Toni Storm as the AEW World Women's Champion says she's disappointed in Mercedes. 3 weeks ago they shook hands agreeing to having the biggest match ever at All in Texas, and since then, Mercedes has been eating steak, playing on her telephone, and trying to kiss Toni. Mercedes is still in Mexico because she's won yet another title. Is that all Toni is to her, another trophy? She reminds Mercedes that she is timeless, she is the AEW Women's World Champion, and if she makes one false move Toni will eat her alive. She demands Mercedes bring her best at All In, because that's what she is. One day Toni's reign will come to an end, and she doesn't know anyone who is more deserving of beating her. She brings up Mercedes' accolades and compares their careers, and Toni makes magic happen with her title, and unless Mercedes can pull a rabbit up, she doubts Mercedes will be able to beat her, knowing that she has to beat Mercedes, and Mercedes is gonna have to kill her. Then we saw a mixed tag team match between Mark Briscoe, Willow Nightingale, and Hologram vs MXM Collection and Taya Valkyrie. Hologram is a new member of the conglomeration. Johnny TV was on the outside for interference to help MXM isolate Hologram. Hot tag to Briscoe for Redneck Kung Fu when the match broke down. Hologram executed a portal bomb on Mansoor. Hologram and Briscoe hit dives outside on Johnny and Mason Madden. Briscoe returned to the ring for a froggy bow on Mansoor to win the match by pinfall. Backstage, Chris Statlander is tired of being asked about Willow Nightingale when no one wants to talk about her. Yuta walks in to talk some smack, but gets a lot of shouting from Statlander, who shoves him to a guardrail against the wall, before bumping into Jon Moxley. She drops her phone, which Moxley picks up from the ground. He tells Chris not to let anyone ever tell her who she is, before handing the phone back to her. He and Yuta walk off. We head back to ringside where Tony Schiavone introduces Don Callis, who has a message ahead of All in Texas. He introduces Okada, and shows us a look back at their attack on Kenny Omega at Summer Blockbuster. He runs down Kenny Omega, saying he knows Kenny is laying in a hospital bed before saying he doesn't think Kenny's gonna make it to All in Texas, and if he does, he's gonna be all alone. He cut off his ties with the Young Bucks and a lot of others, and doesn't have a friend to back him up, and this brings out Mark Briscoe. He tells Callis to shut the hell up before saying he's Kenny's friend, but he's not the only one. This brings out Kota Ibushi to a massive pop, as one half of the Golden Lovers makes his way down to the ring. He lays out Don Callis with his back turned to Okada, who steps into the ring to stare Ibushi down. This leads to the two trading strikes, until Kota sends Okada down to the mat. The Rainmaker rolls out of the ring to regroup with the Don Callis family as Ibushi's music hits. We're back at ringside, but it's the Workhorsemen duking it out with Big Bill and Brian Keith after their issues from last week. We find out this started backstage during the break and has spilled out here, as Bill and Keith slam Henry and Drake against the ring steps. Keith sets up some chairs for Bill to deliver a chokeslam, sending Henry onto the chairs. Bill calls for a microphone as we hear Christian Cage's music. Christian Cage and his sons entered on stage, and Christian says he had a problem with the learning tree eating up his camera time. Christian had a big announcement: he is building mental toughness in Nick Wayne. Time for them to become the first ever father and son tag team champions. Bill interjects to suggest that Nick's father could in fact be anybody, pointing at random men in the audience, and if they don't like hearing that, they can fight about it right now tonight. Cage cuts him off, suggesting Bill's gone off the wagon before saying they'll do what they want because Cage is the face of TNT now and forever. Backstage, we see Anthony Bowens and Billy Gunn having it out over issues from Summer Blockbuster. Bowens talks about needing to climb the ranks in AEW before walking off, to which Billy says he knows. The next match happened between Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight versus Gates of Agony. Ricochet was on commentary scouting Bishop Kaun and Toa Liona. He was impressed with their aggressive attitude. Jet Speed rallied in the end with flashy offense, and Knight started the run with a double DDT to Gates of Agony. Double dropkicks and double dives outside cleared the path for Jet Speed. Bailey nailed a spinning heel kick to Kaun, then Knight landed the UFO splash to win the match by pinfall. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between Athena, Thekla, Megan Bayne, and Penelope Ford versus Thunder Rosa, Queen Aminata, Anna Jay, and Tay Mello. This finish had a little twist. Thunder Rosa executed a spinning Death Valley driver on Athena, but Billy Starks distracted the referee from the pin. Red Velvet ran in to pass the ROH Women's World title to Athena as a foreign object. Athena clocked Thunder with the belt to win the match by pinfall. Velvet's interference was to promote ROH Global Wars Mexico. The four celebrate their win as commentary hypes up Dynamite on Wednesday, as well as matches confirmed for All in Texas, including the return of the Casino Gauntlet matches. Collision comes to a close the show. How much you would rate this week's AEW Collision show? Tell me in the comments, and thanks for watching.